When your soul cries out for the miraculous while your body resists. 12 days to divine healing, in the stillness of Windermere. An ineffable tension filled the air. Margaret, the steadfast matriarch of 3 disciplined children, felt her heart quiver as she grappled with a diagnosis that darkened her world. The moment she heard the words life-altering illness, a shiver ran through her soul. Yet, even in this despair, she clung tightly to her faith, a faith forged in goddess love that had illuminated the chapel where she served so faithfully. Each heartbeat felt like a drum signaling a crisis. She closed her eyes, allowing visions of healing luminescence to play in her mind. Was it just a dream? In the depths of her heart, she felt something dance, something miraculous longing to emerge. She envisioned vibrant light swirling around her, igniting hope. As she descended into sleep that night, the lavender shawl wrapped snugly around her shoulders. It took her to realms unseen, visions of angels soaring, and the promise of divine restoration whispering softly against her ear. Margaret's spirit surged with tenacity, but turmoil brewed beneath. John, her devoted husband, hovered with worry, echoing the concern of friends urging her towards conventional treatments. Their voices blended like a symphony of uncertainty, drowning the melody of her faith. The walls of their cherished chapel felt distant, echoing only her fears instead of her prayers. Every day stretched into a trial, each night a fervent plea to God for clarity. She felt both the weight of resistance from her own body, a betrayer in pain, and the audacious longing for an ethereal miracle. The 7th night was different. In another vivid dream, Margaret found herself standing in an ethereal field, gold and bright, bathed in divine light. The whisper danced around her, carrying a message of unwavering hope. Your healing shall come. Trust in me. She awoke, heart racing but warmed by an inexplicable peace. Her spirit flickered with the energy of 1,000 suns. It was time to act. Gathering courage, she reached out to Pastor Thomas, an unwavering shepherd of their flock. With compassion in his eyes, he agreed to organize a community prayer vigil, a gathering of spirit interwoven with earnest hearts. The news spread like wildfire through the village, igniting a fire of hope wrapped in collective faith. On the night chosen, the chapel resonated with anticipation, a confluence of prayers rising like fragrant incense to the heavens. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The chapel brimmed with expectant villagers, their hearts knit together in faithful reverence. Margaret stood before the altar, tears glistening, saturating the space with her heartfelt hopes. As prayers poured out, a wave of warmth washed over the gathering, an energy pulsating with the grace of divinity. Yet whispers swept through the congregation like rustling leaves, doubts amid the fervent faith. Then, in a profound moment, Mrs. Waverley, an elderly widow frail with age yet fierce in faith, wept inconsolably, calling upon God for miracles. Her plea rippled through hearts and souls as the air vibrated with a weighty presence. Margaret felt her pulse quicken, her eyes shut tightly, her heart opened wide, caught in the undulating rhythm of prayer. Yet uncertainty gnawed within. Would a miracle descend, or would the night yield only silent struggles? As faith surged through the chapel, time seemed suspended, a sacred pause pregnant with divine potential. The fervency of the vigil reached crescendo. Surely, something remarkable was on the cusp of revelation. Would Margaret's encounter with the supernatural come to bear the fruits of her faith? Unease merged with anticipation, leaving her teetering on the brink between healing and hardship. What awaited her, her family, and the community as they drew nearer to the dawn of answers sought in earnest prayer? As the fervent prayers crowned the chapel, Margaret felt the atmosphere thickening with possibility. Every whispered word caressed her spirit, wrapping her in a blanket of warmth and companionship. The ache in her body still lingered, but each pulse of prayer sent ripples of hope through her. Pastor Thomas stepped forward, his voice steady yet tender. "We come together tonight, united in faith, armed with love and devotion," he proclaimed. "Let us lift our cries to the Almighty, whose mercy endures forever." Such declarations were the incense that rose to the heavens. Yet, in the shadows of her heart, Margaret wrestled with her burdens. Would her cries be heard? Would God choose to let her experience this healing she so desperately sought? The rhythm of the gathering took more than just sound. It wove a tapestry of faith, threads of luminous prayers interlocking and forming a divine masterpiece. Eyes began to dart toward her, some glistened with tears, others with an earnest fire of expectation. Margaret felt like a focal point, her very presence an anchor pulling at the spiritual energies swirling about them. Then, in a breathtaking moment, a stillness enveloped the room, punctuated only by the crackling of candles. A sense of reverence washed over the villagers, a divine silence, as if the heavens themselves had paused to listen. In that moment, Margaret's heart raced. What if this silence gathered strength for something wondrous? She positioned herself closer to the altar, drawing strength from the sacred space. In her mind's eye, she reached out to that ethereal field from her dream, envisioning her spirit entwined with the healing light. "God, I believe, increase my faith," she whispered, barely audible yet reverberating through her entire being. Near the altar, Mrs. Waverley's soft cries filled the air, causing the breath of the chapel to deepen. "Lord, make a way where there seems to be none. Heal our dear Margaret." Each utterance echoed in the soul of the congregation, an elegant harmony of compassion that transcended mere words. Margaret could feel the warmth of love flooding her physical and spiritual, invigorating in its intensity. Her breath sat deeper, steadier, as she began to realize something profound. Healing was not merely a restoration of the body. It was the embrace of community, the hands of God intertwined in the fabric of her life. In that sacred breath, an unexpected surge of strength coursed through her. Doubt mingled with faith. She felt the clashing waves of hope and uncertainty rise and fall within. In that divine chill of anticipation, her body responded. Was this it? Could healing be unspooling in currents through her very veins? "Margaret!" Pastor Thomas's voice pierced the quiet. He called her name, summoning her spirit forth. "God is moving among us. Come to the front as we pray for you." Overwhelmed yet assured, Margaret stepped forward, each footfall a declaration of her yearning trust. Eyes were upon her, but she felt no fear, only pure love enveloped her. Every heart there wished for her healing as much as she did. Shadows of doubt began dissolving, casting her deeper into a light that beckoned her onward. The congregation encircled her, each hand uplifted in prayerful expanse. "Spirit of healing," they chanted, voice and heart united. Margaret felt the touch of hands, both warm and firm, resting on her shoulders. Energy pulsed through her, tinged with the fragrance of faith and anticipation. It was then a thought pierced the quiet. What if healing had already begun, weaving through her, throwing open the door to new possibilities? But could it transform her into something greater than just a body restored, but a soul renewed, ready for divine purpose? With every heartbeat, she felt both the urgency and tranquility of that divine moment descend around her. Would she find the strength to move beyond her pain? Could she embrace whatever God had in store, be it healing or something profound beyond her wildest dreams? As the chapel erupted in a chorus of prayers, Margaret stood poised at the precipice of possibility. What awaited her in this sacred moment? The stillness of the chapel hung thick like morning fog, a serene blanket wrapped around each supplicant's heart. Margaret felt it pressing gently against her skin, a reminder of God's presence in this holy place. The prayers continued to rise, soft yet insistent, taking flight toward the heavens, and every word seemed to vibrate with an energy all its own. Eyes closed, she focused on the warmth radiating from the hands resting on her shoulders. Each gentle touch was a vessel of faith, a connection pulsating through the air, rich with expectancy. Margaret's breath hitched in her throat, and the weight of her burdens felt lighter, less intimidating. Where had the pain gone? Or was it merely overshadowed by this overwhelming sense of community and love? Suddenly, a flicker of light caught her attention in the corner of her vision. It was faint but bright, like a star trying to break through the clouds of night. It flickered again, merging with her heartbeat. "Take heart, my daughter." A whisper seemed to weave itself through the very fabric of the air around her. "You are not alone." Pastor Thomas continued his prayer, but Margaret felt a pull inside, urging her to open her eyes. The flicker grew brighter, dazzling for a moment. She expected to see some miracle unfolding, a heavenly sign of healing. Instead, what met her gaze was the eager faces of her friends and neighbors, their expressions a blend of ardent hope and unwavering faith. They were the light. They, too, were part of this dance, a celestial choreography taking place in that quaint chapel. "Margaret, believe," Mrs. Waverly cried out, her voice rising above the rest, a melodic call to arms. "If we can believe together, we will witness his glory." The intensity of those words resonated within Margaret, striking chords deep in her soul. Could this be the moment they all needed to step into? Not just for her healing, but for their collective enlightenment. Margaret's heart raced as she allowed the flickering energy to surge within. It was an awakening, a stirring of the spirit longing for something beyond what her eyes could perceive. She focused on the faces surrounding her. Each one told a story, a testimony woven through trials and aspirations, binding them as a tapestry of faith. "God, I yield," she breathed, the words pouring forth like a simple prayer, yet carrying the weight of sincerity. "I trust in your plan." And in that moment, the flickering light captured her gaze fully. It expanded, a golden sphere enveloping her heart, filling the empty spaces with warmth and light. She gasped, a delicate sigh of awe escaping her lips, as warmth coursed down her arms, down to her fingertips. It wasn't just physical. It was sanctifying. The voices around her blurred into one harmonious sound, flowing like a river of faith, and she realized it wasn't just her healing they sought. It was a connection, a bringing together of fragmented lives, united in longing, hope, and the miracle of divine love. But just as her spirit soared, a flicker of doubt slipped in, casting a shadow. Was she truly worthy? Could she hold the promise tightly? Or would her old scars pull her back? Her eyes darted around, seeking guidance. Then, she glanced up at the altar, where a gilded cross stood tall. In that very moment, she felt an answer piercing her heart. "Your worth is not a question. It is a promise I made long ago." As the warmth deepened, casting away the remnants of doubt, a steady resolve began to root itself within her. The pain within her body may still whisper its presence, but she chose to focus instead on what was pouring in. Perhaps healing wasn't just about the absence of pain. It was about awakening to a life richer in love, purpose, and connection. Her spirit yearned to break free, to embrace whatever God had in store. With a gentle squeeze of hands still resting upon her shoulders, she opened her mouth to offer a new prayer, a prayer of surrender, but also of expectation. "Lord, whatever comes next, let it be." As her voice rang out, a joyous uproar echoed through the chapel, surrounding her. With affirmation, what awaited her was still a mystery, yet Margaret stood firm, poised upon the brink of a greater revelation. Would she dare to venture forth into the unknown, beyond the limitations of her past? As she cast her eyes to the sky, she wondered just how far this light would take her. As the echoes of Margaret's prayer danced in the sacred space, the atmosphere shifted. It pulsed with palpable energy, a divine hum that beckoned for the manifestation of miracles. The congregation leaned closer, hearts aligned, their collective faith fueling the air with an electric anticipation. Margaret felt the unity ripple through her, lifting her spirit like a gentle breeze lifting leaves in springtime. She turned her gaze from the cross, now breathing in the golden light that enveloped her being. Her neighbors, each a flicker of divine promise, mirrored her energy, fingers entwined, eyes glistening with deeper understanding. "God is in our midst," a voice from the back of the chapel cried out, breaking the intense silence. He is waiting to pour out his love. The fervor spread like wildfire. Margaret sensed it igniting her spirit anew. Each clap of hands, every heartfelt amen, rang like chimes in a soft wind. The air crackled, heavy with possibility. It was as if heaven itself had donned a robe of anticipation, waiting for the moment of divine revelation to unfurl. The flickering light within her heart surged again, stronger now, daring her to believe in her worthiness. "You are a vessel of grace," whispered her soul, emboldened by the truth of unwavering faith. Margaret offered a quiet yes in response, an offering to the divine, inviting the transformative spirit to work in and through her. With each heartbeat, she felt burdens beginning to lift, heavy loads of self-doubt and guilt lightening like clouds parting for the sun. This is it, she thought. This is what it means to be reborn. As tears began to stream down her cheeks, mingling with smiles around her, the sense of community became a delicate balm, soothing the edges of her scars. Then, Pastor Thomas stepped forward, his presence radiating divine authority. "Let us take a moment to breathe," he urged, leading the congregation into a serene stillness. "Let us exhale our fears and inhale his love." In unison, they drew in deep breaths, the chapel filled with a collective sigh of release. And as they exhaled, words of rebuke left their lips. The confessions were soft, yet they struck with power, renouncing doubts, fears, and all that had sought to bind them. Margaret closed her eyes again, sinking into the warmth of faith-filled silence. It was as if every weary heartbeat became a prayer of its own, ascending to the heavens where they would find their resting place with God. In those sacred moments, she imagined her pain transforming into something beautiful, something that would carry forth a message of hope. Suddenly, she felt a shift in the air, a gentle gust, almost a whisper like wings fluttering above her head. Her heart raced, attuned to something deeper, something stretched beyond her immediate understanding. It was an invitation to step forward, to embrace what lay just beyond the veil of her perception. "Will you trust me?" The voice echoed in her heart, resonating through the walls of the chapel, intertwining with Pastor Thomas's fervent declarations. It was the call to faith that demanded a response, a commitment to leap into the unknown terrain of divine adventure. As she opened her eyes, the golden sphere of light flickered more intensely. Each face became a beacon of hope, a divine illumination. "I will trust," she declared softly but with fierce intention. "I will trust in your ways." And as those words released their weight into the atmosphere, Margaret understood. Trusting could lead to miracles greater than she could envision. It was in such moments, on the precipice of belief and reality, that divine intervention often took hold. What miracles awaited just beyond this leap of faith? There was a divine yearning in her soul to find out. Whatever lay ahead, she no longer stood alone. With community embracing her, she could face anything. What would tomorrow bring? She wondered. A gift of healing, or perhaps a summons to witness the miracle unfold in the lives of others. The sun began to set, casting soft hues of orange and pink through the stained glass windows of the chapel. The light danced upon the faces of the congregation, a vibrant reminder that hope colored even the darkest moments. Margaret felt a profound sense of connection to all around her. Each breath they took became a sacred exchange, linking them in a symphony of faith. "Look around you," Pastor Thomas's voice rang out, filled with warmth. "These are the hands of God at work. Let every soul here trust in the promise of His grace." His encouragement wrapped around Margaret like a comforting shawl. She turned to her neighbor, a young mother named Eliza, whose eyes now sparkled with tears of joy. Eliza squeezed Margaret's hand tightly, reminding her of the collective heartbeat pulsing through the room. Margaret's heart raced, brimming with feelings she could hardly contain. There was something tangible in the air, as if a doorway to something extraordinary had been flung wide open. "My trust will be the bridge," she thought, kneeling before the altar, surrendering every worry in her heart to the divine. The sound of soft singing floated through the air, weaving melodic threads that wrapped around the congregation. It was a hymn of surrender and faith, lifting spirits higher. As the voices rose, Margaret felt transported. The burdens that once shackled her spirit felt lighter now, and she realized they were fading into the background like distant echoes. Yet amid this communal joy, Margaret felt a flicker of doubt trying to edge back in. What if this state of grace was fleeting? What if tomorrow brought the weight of her old fears crashing back down? But in her prayerful moment, she felt a warmth, an embrace that whispered, "Trust, just trust." In an unexpected stir of the Holy Spirit, a figure stepped forward from the congregation and approached Pastor Thomas. It was Daniel, a man known for his struggles with illness. His face was transformed. The glow that illuminated him spoke of newfound strength. "I felt an urge to share," Daniel began, his voice resonating with authentic power. "Just this morning, I was broken and lost. But with each step I take in faith, I feel healing rise within me." Gasps traveled through the room like wildfire. Margaret's heart buoyed as joy spread across every face. Here was a living testament of faith igniting miraculous change. As tea and warmth circulated around the chapel, conversations sparked like fireworks, each sharing a slice of their journey, each revealing how God had been a thread holding them together, stitching their narratives into a masterpiece of resilience. Margaret absorbed it all, each story a reminder of the beauty woven throughout struggles. She felt urged to share her own story, the battle she had faced with doubt and guilt but hesitated. What if my words falter? What if I don't sound as confident as Daniel? It was then that she heard it again, that gentle calling deep within. "Speak, my child." Gathering her courage, she stood up. "There was a time I felt so far from God, but today, I feel His presence so close. I trust that whatever lies ahead is part of His plan." A chorus of amen resonated through the chapel, echoing her words back to her, lifting her heart once more. With each amen, clarity washed over her like baptismal waters, cleansing away the grime of self-doubt. As they closed the evening in prayer, the spirit of anticipation thickened the air. Margaret realized she stood not just among fellow seekers, but where miracles were being born. What lay next for her on this journey of faith? The moment of revelation hovered in the air, just out of reach, like a sunrise waiting to burst forth. What awaited beyond the veil of tomorrow? Would it be the unlocking of deeper faith, or an opportunity to witness the miraculous unfold before her very eyes? The chapel's warmth lingered in the air, infused with hope and whispered prayers. As the final amen faded, Margaret felt the heaviness in her heart begin to lift. She stepped outside into the twilight, the cool breeze caressing her cheeks, a gentle reminder that the world beyond continued to spin with both trials and blessings. Stars flickered awake in the darkening sky, each one a promise of divine presence, sparkling with potential. She walked slowly, taking in the sights and sounds. The chirping of night creatures harmonized with the rustling leaves. It was a tranquil symphony, a reminder of creation's beauty even in silence. Despite the lingering fears clawing at her heart, Margaret sensed an inner stirring. The pastoress words echoed in her mind as she made her way home. "Trust, just trust." They seemed to resonate continuously. As she entered her modest home, the shadows cast by the streetlight danced on the walls like playful spirits. She sank into a worn armchair, her heart still filled with the joys of the evening. Yet, the heaviness returned, creeping in like an unwelcome guest. "It's wonderful to share faith in the moment," she thought, "but what happens when I'm alone with my doubts?" Margaret glanced at the small wooden table where her Bible rested, its pages worn but full of life. She picked it up, feeling the familiar weight grounding her. As she opened it, a single verse leaped out at her. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." She clutched the book tightly, tears spilling over. Could it really be that simple? Would surrender bring her the peace she sought so desperately? In that stillness, a profound comfort enveloped her, the embrace of something greater. She bowed her head, praying not just for strength but for clarity. "Lord, show me what I need to see. Bring forth the miracles I yearn for, not just for me, but for those around me." In her prayer, Margaret felt a tug on her heart, as if the universe responded to her earnest yearning. What if, the soft whisper suggested, what if the miracles start with you? Days turned into weeks, and in every gathering at the chapel, she began to see changes. Eliza, the young mother who had sat beside her, glowed with renewed energy. She shared how her daughter's illness had lessened, how she was slowly rediscovering joy. Daniel continued to testify about his healing journey, his continual steps of faith breaching barriers he once deemed immovable. Margaret watched in awe, her own heart expanding with hope. Yet, she was continuously met with a question buried deep within. What about my own healing? What about my own doubts? One Sunday evening, as she sat quietly listening to Pastor Thomas talk about the miracles of faith, something remarkable clicked. She realized that faith comes not just in the grand proclamations but in the quiet moments. As the pastor encouraged everyone to engage in heartfelt prayers for one another, it felt like the whole community was charged with divine energy. Margaret stood again, her heart thumping in her chest. I want to pray for others, she declared, her voice shaky yet filled with purpose. I want to trust and believe not just for myself but as a light for those who are lost. The congregation responded with affirmation, an audible wave of support rolling over her. As she prayed for Eliza's mother and Daniel's full recovery among others, she caught glimpses of how intertwined their journeys were. The miracle wasn't just in the healing itself but in community, in shared burdens, and in lifting each other as spirits. By the time she returned home that night, Margaret felt a shift within. The doubts weren't gone, but they felt smaller, like pebbles underfoot on a path of faith. The questions still hovered, but they transformed into invitations to explore deeper. What awaited at the end of this divine journey? Would it reveal the healing Margaret longed for? Or would it lead her into uncharted territory, yearning for more than she had ever asked? Margaret's heart raced as she contemplated the unspoken promise of what was to come. With the dawn's golden light filtering through her window, Margaret awoke feeling different. It wasn't just the sunshine breaking the hold of night. It was something deeper, a flicker of hope igniting within her spirit. She sat up in bed, her heart racing as she remembered the prayers and the community she had found. An inexplicable peace wrapped around her, gently nudging at her doubts. As she prepared for the day, Margaret felt a pull toward the chapel. Even though it was usually bustling with activity on Sundays, today she sensed a longing to be alone with her thoughts. After breakfast, she set off, the familiar path guiding her like an old friend. The air was crisp, filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers marking the season of renewal. She paused to catch a breath, her heart pulled by a sense of divine adventure. The universe felt alive, whispering promises of what was possible. And suddenly, she hoped that today might be the day she would see her own miracle. Entering the chapel, a tranquil silence welcomed her. Sunbeams poured through the stained glass, painting the floor with vibrant colors that danced like spirits on a mission. She approached the altar, the sacred space resonating with love and devotion. Kneeling down, she closed her eyes, her heart open and vulnerable. Lord, she breathed, I don't know what I need, but you do. Show me what healing looks like. Help me understand how I may serve and be served. The stillness deepened, enveloping her in warmth. Time felt suspended, and in that quiet, she heard a soft voice within, reminding her of the connections she had built. Your journey of faith is tied to theirs, Margaret. Embrace it. As she rose, her spirit felt lighter. Over the next few days, she started to actively seek out opportunities to be present for her neighbors. At the farmer's market, she helped Eliza with her shopping. There, laughing and sharing stories, they discovered deep seeds of hope blooming between them. Margaret visited Daniel, bringing him homemade meals and encouragement on days when he struggled the most. With each shared moment, she found herself transforming. The burdens on her heart began to dissipate. Each prayer felt more potent, more woven into the fabric of their lives. In this beautiful exchange, Margaret began to witness little miracles sprouting in unexpected places, a child's laughter ringing out where sorrow once reigned, a kind smile exchanged between strangers, a tapestry of hope unfolding around her. Nights spent in quiet reflection tapped into an undercurrent of communion that transcended each individual struggle. A familiar verse returned to her mind. Where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there am I with them. But as days slipped into nights, shadows flickered, once more old questions resurfacing. But what about my own healing? When will I rise above my doubts? Margaret wrestled with fatigue, as if climbing an invisible mountain. That evening, she found herself at the chapel again, the echo of a promise reverberating deep within. Show me, Lord, show me. As she prayed, she felt a soft stirring, a beckoning to dive even deeper. Could the answers she sought lie not just in her own faith, but in the collective spirit of her community? Suddenly, the realization struck her. What if her journey toward healing was greater than her own? What if it involved mending the brokenness she saw around her before she could claim her own? The thought sent a shiver of excitement through her core. What would it look like to step further into this calling? As she left the chapel, Margaret looked out over the gathering twilight, ready to embrace what was next. The path ahead shimmered with divine promise, uncertain yet undeniably beautiful. What miraculous revelations lay waiting in that uncharted territory of community and faith? What transformations would ensue when her heart embraced its true calling? As Margaret stepped outside, the cool evening air wrapped around her like a welcoming embrace. The world felt vibrant, alive with possibility, each rustle of leaves and soft chirp of crickets stirring her heart deeper. The chapel's gentle warmth lingered in her soul, igniting a curiosity she couldn't ignore. What awaited her down the path of shared purpose and community healing? Over the next few days, Margaret committed herself to fully engaging with her surroundings. She joined a local book club focused on stories of hope and redemption. Every gathering brought new insights and connections. One evening, as they discussed a powerful narrative of forgiveness, Sharon, a member whose spirit seemed dimmed, shared her struggle with loss. Margaret felt an intense urge to approach her, to become a beacon of understanding. Sharon, I know it feels heavy right now, but we can carry it together, she said, her voice steady. The tears that flowed from Sharon's eyes spoke volumes. The group formed a circle of care that night, praying not just for Sharon, but for everyone burdened by grief. Margaret's heart swelled as she saw vulnerability fostered into strength, the miracle of togetherness being woven right before her eyes. Days turned into weeks, and Margaret's own challenges felt less daunting. She poured herself into each interaction, embracing the fabric of her community with each word and deed. Yet, she still felt that gnawing question festering in the quiet corners of her consciousness. What about my struggles? When do I let go of the doubt that lingers like an unwelcome shadow? One afternoon, while running errands, she met Mrs. Thompson, an elderly widow clutching bags too heavy for her tiny frame. With a smile, Margaret rushed over to help, feeling the familiar tug of purpose. As they walked together, Mrs. Thompson began to share stories of her late husband, tales filled with laughter and shared dreams that painted pictures of a life well lived. Margaret, Mrs. Thompson said, her voice trembling with emotion, you remind me of my younger self. There's a light in you that people need. Startled, Margaret realized how often she had questioned her own worth. The word light sent a rush through her, a soft whisper echoing the truth she had long doubted. That evening, with the sun sinking low and the chorus of evening rustling around her, Margaret sat beneath a great oak tree, her heart still racing. She closed her eyes and reflected deeply. Lord, she whispered, if I can be a light to another, what miracle can you work through me? What healing can flow from this place of willingness? A gentle breeze grazed her cheeks as if responding. Suddenly, a profound sense washed over her, illuminating the darkness of her self-doubt. The pieces began to align, and clarity rose like dawn breaking. Perhaps healing wasn't a solitary pursuit. It was in knowing that each act of kindness, each engagement with her neighbors, was a thread in the larger tapestry of grace. With renewed strength, she ignored her earlier uncertainties and stepped fully into her calling. Joy cascaded through her veins as she recognized her role in nurturing the collective spirit. Margaret returned to the chapel that night, her heart brimming with gratitude. The moonlight poured through the stained glass, creating a kaleidoscopic canvas on the walls, and she felt the divine presence wrap around her. "Show me, Lord," she declared again, not just how to serve but how to be served. A thought sparked her excitement. What if the next miracle was around the corner? What transformative journey awaited her in the blossoming community of faith? As she knelt in prayer, an idea began to settle deep in her heart. The whispers of purpose swirled around her, urging her to ask not just for healing, but the gift of insight into the sacred connections she was forming. In this movement of love, what would God reveal next? Margaret awoke the next morning to a soft light filtering through her bedroom window, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. A new day felt like a fresh canvas, begging to be colored with acts of love and connection. She sat up and stretched, resisting the urge to retreat into the mundane routine. Instead, she reached for her journal, eager to capture the inspiration stirring within her. Today would be different. She sensed it even before her feet hit the floor. Her heart raced at the thought. What if today was a day of divine encounters? What would the universe present to her if she stayed open and adventurous? The morning had a rhythm of its own as Margaret moved through her tasks. With every interaction, from the barista serving her coffee to the shopkeeper exchanging pleasantries, she sought not only to connect but to see them, truly see them. Each smile received felt like a small ripple, nudging her further into the ambience of shared humanity. Later, at the community center, a buzz of excitement filled the air. Families filled the hall, gathering for a community meal. Margaret grabbed a tray and began serving food, her hands busy but her heart attentive. She marveled at the laughter that spilled from children and the stories exchanged between neighbors. As she handed a plate to a young father, he shared about his job loss, his eyes shadowed with worry. "I just don't know how I'll make ends meet," he said, his voice tight. Margaret paused, her heart aching for him. "Can I pray with you?" The words tumbled out before fear could stop her. His surprise was palpable, but after a moment's hesitation, he nodded. They stood together, the aroma of food enveloping them, as she whispered a prayer of hope and provision. God's presence seemed to interrupt the chaos, allowing a moment of stillness. She felt the man's shoulders relax beneath her hands. "Thank you," he said softly, a hint of light returning to his eyes. As she moved on, a small voice called to her. It was Emily, a bright-eyed girl from the book club. "Margaret, let us look for my lost kitten together." Margaret felt her spirits soar. "Of course. Where did you see her last?" They stepped outside, embarking on a quest among the hedges and trees, laughter weaving through the air as they scanned the neighborhood. Though the kitten remained elusive, the joy found in the search filled Margaret's heart. She enjoyed the freedom of laughter, the feeling of adventure brushing against her soul. Yet, along with the happiness, a shadow still lingered. Her own wounds felt like they lay beneath the surface, waiting for recognition. Returning home that evening, fatigued but fulfilled, she sank into her favorite chair, an old friend against the weight of her thoughts. "Lord," she whispered, "I see you working in others. What about me? What healing do I need?" Margaret closed her eyes, letting silence envelop her. It was in this quiet moment that the thought flooded her mind. Maybe healing required not just faith but acceptance of her own vulnerabilities. Just then, she heard a soft knock on her door. Curiosity piqued. She stood and opened it to find Mrs. Thompson, holding a small basket of treats. "I brought you something sweet," the elderly woman said, her eyes twinkling. Life, Margaret realized, was far richer when they ventured through it together. While she had been eager to plant seeds of light, perhaps it was time to accept the nourishment being offered, to embrace the kindness extended toward her. As they sat on the porch sharing stories and treats, Margaret felt another understanding bloom within. It wasn't merely about finding answers or healing. It was about journeying together, leaning into life's beauty and hurts hand in hand. With this newfound clarity, she wondered, what miracles await when we allow others to share in our burdens? With those thoughts swirling in her mind, a flicker of anticipation ignited a question that would guide her steps in the days to come. What happens when we embrace vulnerability as a strength? As dawn broke, The morning light spilled into Margaret's world like the soft embrace of divine love, reminding her that every sunrise brought new chances to encounter miracles. Today, the air was charged with something special, as if the universe held its breath in eager anticipation. She felt an insatiable urge to dive deeper, to step into the unknown with faith holding her hand. Today is a day of divine encounters, she whispered to herself as she prepared for the day's gatherings at the chapel. Each chore became a prayer, each movement filled with purpose, leading her to a greater understanding of the journey she was on. The community center overflowed with warmth as the aroma of freshly brewed coffee harmonized with bubbling laughter. People gathered to share meals, stories, and, more importantly, love. Margaret buzzed through the crowd, her heart quickening with the realization that her healing was intricately woven into the fabric of these connections. "Margaret!" shouted Eliza, her eyes sparkling with the joy that soothed Margaret's soul. "Can you help me with a craft project for the festival?" "Absolutely," Margaret replied enthusiastically, her heart swelling with the warmth of fellowship. Each interaction filled her with a renewed sense of purpose. She was not merely an observer, but an active participant in this beautiful tapestry of hope. As the day unfolded, Margaret moved through her tasks with grace, lending hands to those in need. She swept the floors, set tables, and listened intently to stories of struggles and triumphs. It was a reflection of the divine communion she had long yearned for, revealing that healing didn't demand perfection of the body, but rather an openness of the heart. In a quiet moment, she retreated to a corner of the center, her heart filled to the brim. The shadows of her own uncertainties lingered, tempting her to falter. Margaret closed her eyes, lifting her palms upward, saying, "Lord, show me what I need to embrace within myself." In that blessed silence, a wave of understanding washed over her, tinged with warmth. The burdens she carried faded beneath the realization that vulnerability could become her strength and her connection to others. "Margaret, come here," Daniel called out from across the room, his contagious enthusiasm shifting the air around them. He stood before a gathering of newfound friends, sharing how faith had transformed his life. "Let me tell you about the power of prayer." Margaret's heart swelled. Daniel's testimony not only showcased his healing journey, but ignited the flames of encouragement in others. It was a revelation. The healing she sought for herself was unfolding in the kindness she shared with others. "Every moment we embrace faith together offers healing, not just for our spirits but for the whole community," he said, locking eyes with Margaret. "Trusting isn't just about finding our miracles. It's intertwined with our choice to uplift one another." Margaret felt the energy of shared faith flicker like a beacon around her. She stepped forward, feeling as if the very words had been a gentle nudge from the Lord. "I want to share," she said, her voice resonating through the room. "I've struggled, and while I often question my worth, I have felt the love of this community heal me time and again." The eyes of her friends met hers with kindness, each bearing a story of their own. Responses erupted amen, and yes, poured from eager mouths, creating a chorus of hope that enveloped her. Tears brimmed in some, laughter rang from others, and Margaret felt a release, as if a weight had been lifted. In that vibrant atmosphere, she realized their shared connections flourished through open hearts, each allowing the light of Goddess love to seep through the cracks of their lives. In that moment, the community became the embodiment of healing every shared pain, every laugh, every tear canopied under the promise of grace. Together, they were not just individuals. They were a unified family, glowing with the power of divine love. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows, Margaret felt something profound shift within. She stepped outside for a moment to breathe, the cool air kissed with the fragrance of roses blossoming nearby. She reached a pivotal moment in her journey. "Show me, Lord," she softly prayed again, her heart open wide. What awaited her in this uncharted territory of vulnerability? What transformations would resound through her life and within the lives of those she loved? And in the depths of her soul, Margaret grasped that healing was not just a response to her pain, but a very essence entwined in the act of love. As she turned to re-enter the center, Tears of gratitude streaked her cheeks, mirroring the shimmering hope in her heart. The chorus of laughter beckoned her back, each note sang promises of healing, not only for herself but for a community hungry for miracles. And as the twilight skies ushered in a symphony of stars, she realized their journey had just begun. Could her faith ignite miracles for others? Would she lift others to see their worth? With an eager heart, Margaret stepped back into the glow of the community, ready to embrace the divine calling that awaited in every connection she forged, and in every life they touched together. And the beauty of this journey unfolded as they embarked on this shared adventure of faith, love, and miracles waiting to be witnessed. It was time for Margaret to not only believe but to walk boldly into the divine plan ahead. Now, dear friends, if you felt inspired by Margaret's journey, if you felt your own heart yearning to connect, please subscribe immediately to the channel. Don't miss out on these incredible faith stories that touch every soul. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread this message of hope and love. Comment below to share your reactions, your personal testimonies, about how you have experienced God's healing in your life. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this glorious manifestation of faith. You need to share the light. Don't wait even one more second. Only true servants of God know how critical it is to support this channel through these actions. Let's spread the message of faith far and wide.